Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Hogan. You probably received an email from me inviting you to this meeting. This is a meeting to discuss transit development plans as well as PSRC's efforts to collect transit asset management and transit safety data for regional data collection and target setting. And I will pass it over to Gil.
Yeah, and thank you, Aaron. I'm Gil Cerise. I'm a program manager here at Puget Sound Regional Council in the Transportation Planning Department. And Aaron works on my team. We do work on the long-range transit planning and transportation planning in the region. And just kind of giving a little bit of background for you all. Thank you all for joining us. The work that we do here and that Aaron's going to be sharing with you is kind of all based upon our the role that we have in terms of keeping and collecting data on a regional level. And we do have a review role for these transit development plans for the six agencies that do transit development plans are required to do that by Washington State Department of Transportation. And we also have a role of developing regional targets and kind of keep tracking progress on regional targets for the FTA required transit asset management and transit safety work. So I really do just appreciate your attention to this and the work you do. Aaron and I have done a lot of work with our management here to kind of like identify what the most important things are. So we're trying to keep it to not sharing and not asking you for lots of things, but to kind of ask for things that are most relevant to our role as a regional planning agency. So just kind of thank you again for your attention to this work and to your follow up with Aaron and the timely follow up on that. So that's kind of covers my comments, Aaron. And I'm around for this training if people have questions about our role and why we asked for what we asked for. So take it away, Aaron.
Thanks, Gil. And we appreciate everyone being here today, but since we only have an hour, we're not going to go around and do introductions. But yeah, please feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand. There will be time at the end of each section to ask questions, but if there's something that's super unclear and you want to interject, just feel free to do so. Okay, I will get us going. So, a quick overview, as Gil said, kind of why we're having this meeting today, but kind of the order of events here. So first, we will review the guidance for 2026 to 2031 transit development plans and the timeline for submitting those to PSRC. Then we will talk about transit asset management, the data that we collect, some changes to the template, and a timeline for submitting that. Then do the same process to talk about the transit safety data. And then at the end, we'll kind of summarize what the key asks are and the timeline of collecting this information. So we will start off for transit development plans. I know there's some folks on the call representing organizations where we only are collecting your transit asset management and transit safety data. So please bear with us throughout this section, but I also don't want to panic anyone if you're thinking, I didn't know I needed to do this. Don't worry, we will get to the FTA section. So I know several folks on the call have done this before for several years, but we are going to do just a quick refresher. So throughout the meeting, you might hear us say TDP, which stands for Transit Development Plan. These are 6-year plans updated annually by transit agencies as required by the state. So in our region, that means these 6 agencies, Community Transit, Everett Transit, King County Metro, Kitsap Transit, Pierce Transit, and Sound Transit are subject to this requirement. And PSRC, within the state requirement, it asks agencies to submit them to their regional transportation planning organization, which is us, Puget Sound Regional Council for the 6 of you. And our role is really to just review these plans and use them to inform our planning work. And we tend to review them also for consistency with sort of our regional policies and plans. So these, per the WashDOT guidance, there are 9 required elements for a transit development plan. And while PSRC will look at the full plan, I don't want you to think the other sections are not valuable. They are. They give us a good indication of sort of ongoing work at the agency beyond the things we talk to you about every day, such as your major projects. But we'll give special attention to three of those sections, which are regional capacity projects, the plan consistency section, and then performance measures, which is overlaps with that FTA performance data requirement. So I'm going to go through each of these. The first are the regional capacity projects. So when we kind of dug into this and talked to WashDOT, I guess the initial intention was that this would be a way for transit agencies to share projects meeting the regional capacity threshold, and that could be used to help an RTPO like us develop a transportation improvement program or a TIP, which we update every 2 years. But because we have such a large region, PSRC does this through a separate process. But to kind of make this requirement more valuable, we use this as an opportunity to kind of double check that any changes that may have occurred at your agency on these projects are captured in our regional capacity project list and our TIP. So that's a bit about kind of what we're doing here. We will send out after this a guidance document. It'll be pretty similar if you've been around to what we've shared in the past, but that will include this document that shows the thresholds for what is a regional capacity project. There's really no it's not meant to insult projects that don't meet the threshold. We understand those are still really valuable. So there's really nothing gained by having more or less projects on this list. It's just necessary for our funding processes that anything that meets this threshold be on this list, even if you're not seeking PSRC funding. So we will share out the thresholds, but largely for transit, it tends to be BRT projects, most of the Sound Transit system expansion projects, large park and rides over 250 stalls, things like that. So what we're asking from all of you working on transit development plans is to review the projects that you include in your financial plan within the TDP and list out any of the projects that meet that threshold. I know this is sort of different for different agencies. Some folks will make that an attachment. Some folks list them out in its own section. Whatever works for you is fine for us, but just call out somewhere that these are your regional capacity projects. And then we will compare that to our regional capacity project list. Something to note is that last year we were kind of in a transition period because we update this project list every 4 years as part of our regional transportation plan, and we were mid update last time, but we do have a new regional capacity project list that will be adopted along or as part of our RTP at our General Assembly in May. So that's what we'll be comparing this to. If you want to see, there is a draft version of the list is available on our website. But again, we really encourage you to go through and kind of look at your projects against the threshold and include those rather than just copy and pasting what's in the regional capacity project list, because then we're not really able to double check anything. So that's kind of our suggestion. I will pause to see if Gil, did I miss anything, or does anyone have any questions so far?
I don't think so. I don't think you missed anything, Aaron.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move along. I'm realizing with this screen setup, I cannot see hands. So please feel free to unmute yourself or yeah.
And I'll let you know if there's hands.
Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, great. So we will move along. So the second piece of the transit development plans that PSRC kind of gives special attention to review is the plan consistency section. So really the goal, according to the WashDOT guidance of having this, is to ensure that capital and service investments are consistent with local planning policies, including population density and land use planning. So, in addition to those large regional capacity projects, there are also smaller programmatic investments below that threshold that should also be consistent with local comprehensive plans and other planning processes. So that's really kind of what we're looking for in this section. So the key thing that I think we've noticed in past plans is to kind of highlight how your agency, there's sort of two-way communication with jurisdictions. And so I know for agencies like Sound Transit, you have a very large service area with a lot of jurisdictions. So we're certainly not expecting anyone to go through and say, here's every comprehensive plan policy in our service area that relates to our transit service. That's way too big of a lift and not what we're asking for. So you can just sort of summarize what that process looks like. How do you engage with local jurisdictions when you're working on your transit agency's plans? And how have you weighed in or collaborated with local municipalities when they're developing their local comprehensive plans or countywide plans? So it can just be sort of a short description of how that collaboration occurs, or we've had some agencies that will give kind of a sample of here's a couple local planning policies that we weighed in on or that are consistent with our plan investments. So really, again, the key is to just kind of we just want to know how are you, because we know all of you are doing really good work with local jurisdictions. So, and I know, Everett Transit, you're in the unique place of being kind of concentrated. So hopefully this is easy for all of you or easier. And so that's kind of the intent behind this. Again, not intended to create a lot of work. Really just want some description of, how this is consistent with local plans. Okay. And then I'm going to momentarily skip over the third piece of what we're looking for in transit development plan, since that's what we're going to spend the rest of this meeting talking about. But did want to just quickly give an overview of the timeline for sharing your transit development plans with PSRC. If you've done this with us in the past, we haven't really made any changes. We're still asking that and ideally, you share your draft with PSRC before it goes out for public comment, because we've had some challenges in the past that there isn't a lot of time between when the public comment period closes and when the board adopts the plan. And so, in theory, if we had any comments, we want there to be time for you to integrate those. So
Ed has
that's,
a
oh, go
Ed has
ahead.
a question. Ed at Coviello has a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ed.
Hi, going back a couple slides to the regional capacity projects.
Mhm.
Um, if we have a project that's way out in 2040 or 2050, do you need to know about that, or is it only projects that are currently in our TIP?
That's a great question. Thank you, Ed. Yeah, so only projects that are going to be like active between by like 2031. So if you're going to start like a phase of the project during that time where you're going to be using funding or kind of like you said, if it's in the tip, but something that far out does not need to be included.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. I forgot to mention that. So thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Um, So we will, we're asking for those plans and then we will try to do our turnaround in around 2 weeks to get you comments as quickly as possible. I think last year we were able to turn some around quicker than that. Again, the more years we do this, the more we can streamline this. And then I would like folks to submit the final transit development plan that's adopted by your board or whatever your designated process is by September 1, which is when they're due to WashDOT. So I know some folks, when they send it to WashDOT, will just CC us on that email or however it makes sense for you. I have gone, when we haven't gotten the finals, I usually can track them down on everyone's website. So good job to all of you for keeping those posted and visible on your websites. But we do like to kind of keep those final plans on file. So yeah, again, there's not really a strict deadline. I think I've kind of gotten the cadence down over the last few years of when agencies have their own kind of timelines for these process. So I know some folks are submitting these in May and June, and others are submitting them to us in August. So again, just as soon as you have something ready. And I also wanted to emphasize that if it doesn't need to be like perfectly complete. If there's a little section that, you maybe have a placeholder in or something like that, that's fine. But it should be complete enough that we can review those 3 sections. And then the last thing I was going to mention was typically we've done this as, again, kind of an informal staff to staff review when we send sort of comments or feedback. If it is helpful for your agency after that, for us to submit something during your public comment period that says like, PSRC reviewed this in the draft stages, and this agency has done a great job and this is consistent. We're happy to do that. I don't think we've gotten a lot of requests for that in the past, but just let us know. So, any questions on transit development plans that are not related to TAM and safety? Because we will do those next.
I don't see any hands, Aaron.
Okay, great. And if you are only interested in this section of the presentation and want to drop off, you're more than welcome. And we will forge ahead to the FTA performance measures. So as a bit of an overview, I think most folks are aware on the call that the Federal Transit Administration has requirements for setting targets and tracking performance for transit service. And PSRC has worked with all of your agencies to kind of develop a process because we are also required to do regional targets. And so when in like 2017, I think, for TAM and 2021 for safety, as these requirements were put into place, we worked with all of your agencies and came to the conclusion that the easiest way to do the regional target, rather than us trying to set some target that we have no role in really achieving, that we would do what we call a roll-up of all of your agency data. So essentially combining all of your targets into one regional target. And so we do collect this data every year because we're supposed to update these regional targets whenever we update our RTP or our TIP. And the way that those are synchronized, that's happening like with a lot of frequency. So it's easier to just always have this tracked. And I think it's cleaner for the data. And should the FTA ever ask us for the targets, we need to have up-to-date targets and actuals available. So the reason we're presenting this in the same presentation and at the same time as all of the content around transit development plans is that this is also a requirement that transit agencies share. I think WashDOT phrases it at a minimum, your transit asset management and transit safety measures, and as well as the targets and actuals within the transit development plan. So a few years ago, we saw this as an opportunity to say if folks are already including those, could we kind of streamline these processes and ask for this all at the same time? So the way we've done this in the past is each year toward the beginning of the year, we do this training and we ask you for your previous year's actuals and the next year's targets. So we will be asking for, in this calendar year 2026, your 2025 actuals and your 2026 targets. So again, theoretically, those should already be set because we've already started calendar year 26. But we also know agencies have different timelines for doing this. So to streamline this all with the TDPs, we ask for this by September 1st of each year. As a reminder, we are only dealing with the transit asset management and transit safety. We know a lot of folks have additional measures, which is great. And if you include those in the TDP, we will look at those. But for the regional data collection, these are the two sections that we're concerned with. So I'm going to start with transit asset management. So not a lot of changes to how this has been done in the past. The measures that are required that we need regionally are your rolling stock vehicles exceeding useful life benchmark, the actuals and targets for those, as well as the equipment, which is usually non-revenue service vehicles exceeding useful life benchmark. And then for facilities and infrastructure, the questions are, or the benchmarks are related to the condition rating and any performance restrictions. I think that's mostly for rail. And so no changes to the measures that we're collecting. The only thing that will be different for transit asset management folks is we are updating the spreadsheet a bit. So it might look a little bit differently than it has in the past. But again, same measures we're collecting, same time frame, asking for it by September 1st. Just the process of completing the spreadsheet and submitting it will look a little bit different, which I'm going to kind of go over that once we've talked about TAM and transit safety. We also use this training as a quick opportunity to remind folks that I believe it is a checklist item for the FTA triennial review process. The transit agencies have shared any updates to the Transit Asset Management Plan, or the TAMP, or the TAM plan, however you like to say it. They should share updated versions with their MPO, which is us, Puget Sound Regional Council. And so whenever you send us an email saying we've adopted a new TAM plan, we do log that we got a notification, and then we will send an email back saying we've received this. I think that's what FTA has asked for in the past, is confirmation from the MPO that they received your updated plan. So we just like to send a reminder for this every year. And if you have questions about your agency's plan in particular, like when's the last time we sent you one or something like that, please feel free to email me. My email's on the slide, ehogan@psrc.org. And then for all of this stuff, we're encouraging folks to CC our transportation email account, just in case I'm out of office or something like that. And so we kind of have it for our records. So yeah, this is just a friendly reminder as you make those updates to always share updated plans with PSRC. So now we're going to switch over to the safety side, and there's a bit more to talk about on this today. So again, I think a lot of folks on this call are pretty familiar, but there were, when this first got implemented, again, I think in 2021, there was a collection of safety measures that are listed here. So that was fatalities and fatality rate, injuries and injury rate, safety events and the safety event rate, and then system reliability, which for regional purposes, we use mean distance between failures. I know we've talked over the last few years that some folks prefer to use different measures in their external facing documents, and that's totally fine. But we will continue to ask you for the mean distance between failures number because we have to have a consistent measure across all of the agencies that we can roll up. And again, we can talk through if folks have concerns. Typically, we only share the rolled up regional number. So we won't call out, King County Metro's mean distance between failure is this. We're really just concerned with that roll up. So happy to chat through that with anyone, either in the Q&A time at this meeting or offline. But I know that's a measure that we kind of struggle with from year to year because I know that some agencies prefer to do system reliability differently. So for this year, we will continue to collect the data for these measures, as well as there were new measures instituted by the FTA in 2024, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So again, you all probably know more about this than I do, but we are aware that new guidance was issued in April 2024 that took effect in November 2024, introducing some new safety measures that are required for all of the agencies on this call. I know there's sort of different tiers of NTD reporting and all of that, but this does apply to everyone here. So there was some guidance issued on sort of how to integrate these, and these were supposed to be integrated the next time an agency updated their PTASP, which is their agency safety plan. And based on the feedback we got last year and what we saw last year, I believe all the agencies have integrated this at this point. If that is not the case, please feel free to reach out to us. But I think last year we included these new measures in our template as kind of optional. So just again, to kind of get people in the habit of reporting all of this, but we did not do a regional roll-up because there were a few spots where folks had not integrated this into their agency safety plan yet. So the new measures that are included here include, oh no, There we go. Okay. The motion sensor didn't know I was still in here. So these include the number of assaults on transit workers and the rate of assaults. For collision rate, this is a whole new category. So it asks about total collisions as well as pedestrian and vehicular collisions. Then there's transit worker injury rate and a transit worker fatality rate. So one thing I did want to highlight briefly, I know some agencies like to use a 3-year average when they're doing the rates. And that is fine because usually we're using more the numbers that you're providing, those whole numbers of like the number of assaults or the number of collisions. And then we will calculate sort of the regional rate once we add all of that up. So that will be included in the notes that we send out. But just that's maybe the one topic where I know some people left it blank last time and told us that they were waiting for 3 years worth of data to set a target rate. So I will pause to see if there are any questions. We'll talk a bit in the next slide about how we're going to ask for all this information. But does anyone have any questions or concerns about us collecting these new transit safety measures?
I don't see
Okay,
any hands yet.
great.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Gil, before we get
No,
into
I mean,
the
I
questions?
guess I just kind of like maybe adding in about the part that you brought up in this introducing this section, Aaron, is like the I think one of the more common questions you get is why agencies are entering this into the NTD, and just as a kind of a reminder for folks that is like your agencies are all doing percentages, but we, as we're rolling up as a regional average, need the information, the data that goes into what makes your percentage. So therefore. That's why we asked for a little bit different information. And I think Aaron's going to talk about an improvement we've been trying to make. We're working through here about how to improve how we receive your information. So go ahead, Aaron.
Yep. Thanks, Gil. Um, and then we did want to give sort of while we were talking about those agency safety plans, similar to transit asset management. If you make updates to your PTASP, please go ahead and send it to PSRC, and we'll do that same process where we email you confirmation that we've received it, and that should meet your FTA triennial review checklist item. So just kind of trying to put some reminders in here as we have in the past. So as Gil kind of queued up, we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about changes for this year. Again, as you may have noticed while I was chatting, not a lot of difference in what we're asking for transit development plans, and then really no changes to the measures for transit asset management. Definitely some changes for safety. But I think the big highlight is that in the past, for folks that have been around, typically we come up with a template for every single agency. We come up with a Excel spreadsheet for transit asset management and another one for safety, and we send them to you with highlighted cells for you to fill in and ask that you send it back to us. And again, this can take a few different forms. Some agencies prefer to fill that in and send the Excel spreadsheet back to us. Others put those as attachments or appendices in their transit development plan. And then I just kind of pull out of the document the numbers that we need. Those are still like acceptable. That's still an acceptable way to do it if you want to include this in your TDP. But for filling out the template, it's become a bit onerous as the years have gone by. We have a lot of Excel spreadsheets saved in our files. And so to streamline this a little bit, we're going to use OneDrive this year. So essentially, I'm going to create one spreadsheet for transit asset management and one for safety. And there will be tabs at the bottom. I know this is a very small graphic, but I did just a quick screenshot for the more visual learners. But there will be tabs at the bottom. And so we're asking you to go to your agency's tab and enter the data. And that's why we're doing this in OneDrive, so multiple people can be accessing and editing this at once. But we also don't want someone to accidentally edit another agency's tab. I know sometimes that happens. Folks open it. I feel like community transit, you're probably going to be the most susceptible to this as the first agency. So folks just entering it on the first tab they see. So there will be a password for each tab. So this will ensure kind of nothing gets accidentally written over. And then there will also be we'll have a tab for each agency, and then the regional roll-up tab will be included at the end. And so once this is all done, you'll be able to see kind of how we get to these regional total numbers. So again, you'll be able to view everything, but we'll only be able to edit your agency's tab. In terms of like the security or the privacy of this information, we are just sharing the link to this with you on the call. If you need to bring other people from your agency in to help fill out the tab, you're welcome to share the PIN for your tab to access it with them. But again, want to emphasize this isn't like a publicly facing document that people will be able to see, you know, half done or anything like that. Before we finalize the regional targets, we will download this from OneDrive. Folks will no longer have access to it, and then we'll have the regional numbers, which is all that will be sort of publicly available. And again, those are only included if the FTA requests them, and then we do include the current year targets in our regional transportation plan. So the data we collected from all of you last year, you will see in the regional transportation plan being adopted in May. So again, why are we doing this differently? Again, we just want to kind of streamline this process. I also think this will reduce any just like potential accidental errors as we're copying things from all those individual spreadsheets into sort of a combined regional spreadsheet. And we're also kind of hopeful that this will make it more clear why we're asking for the numbers that we're asking for. So I think when you can kind of see the regional roll-up spreadsheet and how those formulas are fed into, hopefully that offers a little more transparency about why we're asking for specific information. And so that's kind of the plan. Oh, I do see your hand, Ed. I will call on you in 1 second. I was just going to throw out that we know this is new and we are going to be doing some testing. And if this becomes too onerous, we can go back to the way we did it last year. But we thought this was an opportunity to try something new. Ed, go ahead.
Hey, with this new approach, which I really like because it's sort of a one-stop shopping thing that I can send to our various staff to fill out, do we still need to include this as an appendice in the TDP since you'll already have it?
Yeah, so for our purposes, no, as long as you get us this data. I think technically the WashDOT guidance asks for the TAM and safety
Okay,
data to be in the
so
TDP.
we'll be able to just print out essentially a screenshot of it
Yeah,
and slap it in there. Okay, thank you.
yes, yeah, that would be perfect. And that should satisfy WashDOT and what we need. So thanks,
Okay,
Ed.
great. Thank you.
Um, any other questions on what I've covered so far? Okay. Um, the last few things here in terms of the timeline and a request, we were going to ask if anyone was willing to volunteer to test this out. We've done a bit of testing internally, but we want to make sure, I know sometimes there's permissions issues, and so I worked with our IT person, and we think we've come up with the appropriate workaround that your agency staff, essentially people with to use that as an example, an at kitsaptransit.com or org or whatever you have, should be able to use the link. So that way, if you are sharing this with someone else at your agency, they'll be able to see it, but someone with like a random Gmail will not. And again, also happy to download this if we do run into permission issues. Happy to troubleshoot those, but we felt pretty confident that a OneDrive link should work for everybody and you won't need to log in or anything like that. So does anyone I would probably be sending this out this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Does anybody have any interest in being the guinea pig? It should just take like 10 or 15 minutes of your time to quickly open it, make sure you can see it, and enter your PIN on your tab so that we know that works. Ed, I see your hand. Are you volunteering?
Yeah, but what do I get in return? Do I get like
Okay.
candy,
I don't
monetary
that
preference in the
yeah,
regional funding round, maybe?
that I'm
No.
definitely not at liberty to do
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
But you'll get a fun preview of this file before everyone else.
yeah,
But
I'm pretty open tomorrow, so if you need somebody.
Okay.
And
Thanks, Ed. I
Carrie also
appreciate
says
that.
that in chat, she says she's able to test this week too. So
Oh,
Carrie White.
wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and I might take both of you up on it again, just to make sure. Um, Again, I'm a little nervous because I know different agencies have different security protocols, but we wanted to at least try this year and see if we could do this a little more efficiently. So as soon as we get through that test, thank you for the volunteers, and then I will send it out to everybody. Um, and that kind of is covered. I'm actually going to skip ahead and come back to that one. So essentially, what we're going to send this out, ideally, again, by the end of this week, so folks have it. I know we did this a little bit later last year because there was other RTP work going on. So one thing we did want to encourage, and it's the last bullet on this list, is if folks could maybe open this and test out their PIN when they receive it. And if you're not ready to enter the information yet, that's totally okay. But we just want to try to kind of catch any major technical problems as early as possible. So I just wanted to put that plug out there first. And then again, I think we've covered this, but as a timeline for collecting this information, again, we will be asking for 2025 actuals and 2026 targets. There will be highlighted cells that show what you need to complete in the template. We'll probably do a reminder in June and August. I know in the past when we've done kind of late fall reminders, sometimes that's not as helpful. So we'll do that. I think especially for agencies that don't do the transit development plans, this kind of slips away because September is a long way out. So we'll try to keep sending reminders, again, not to nag anyone, but just to keep it front of mind. And then we're asking for this data as well by September 1st, just kind of to, again, be able to roll all of this up by the end of the year and have those targets. I know there's usually at least some back and forth with agencies if we notice something that seems off or are still missing things. This allows a little time for that. And then, yeah, this is, again, I've put it lots of places, the reminder to send us your transit asset management or your safety plan as that comes up. So yeah, now I will probably kind of leave this up for a moment for folks. But yeah, so the key asks from today in summary are to, as in the past years, send us your draft transit development plan. Again, ideally ahead of public comment so we can provide kind of a staff to staff comment letter. And that will allow time if you want to address anything that we write in the comment letter. So again, no set date for this, but just as soon as you have it available and ready to share with us. And you can submit that by emailing it to me and our PSRC transportation account. And then for the TAM and transit safety spreadsheets, again, we will share those out later this week. And you can submit that data whenever you want, but no later than September 1st. And because you won't be necessarily sending a spreadsheet back to us, we're just asking you to send us an email saying like, we're done making edits to our tab. And that will kind of let us know because we don't want to start doing kind of pulling any of those regional numbers if folks are still, making edits. So that's kind of how we're going to test that out this year. Appreciate you all kind of, I guess, going along for the journey. I do hope this is easier. I know it will be easier on our end, and I hope it is also easier on your end, again, to not worry about keeping track of the spreadsheet that we send you, but all you need is that link to access it at any time. And then, again, can share that with other staff at your agency. So whoever needs to enter in the numbers has it. And I think that's it, unless Gil, was there anything I've missed?
No, I think you covered it, but just kind of re-emphasizing. I think you kind of are saying we don't want to nag, but at some point some nagging is appropriate, right? And we need this information. So just to kind of like really highlight some of the comments that Aaron was just talking about, when we will do a staff to staff comment on the TDPs if you send them to us before your comment period, which is great. But if not, if you let us know when it's comment period, we will just send a public comment during that period. And then for the TAM and transit safety, some of the nagging might come if you've entered some information, but we haven't heard from you, right? So that's a key piece there. You need to email back and let us know I'm done with my inputs on that, so that we'll be sure to that those were finalized and they were consistent with what we have for our regional roll-ups. Dustin has his hand up.
Aaron, I had a quick question. I had a quick question for you, Aaron, on the safety targets. In the past, you've asked for our calculation sheets. So are you just asking for our final numbers, or are you going to want a supplementary document that has the calculations so you can see how we arrived at our targets?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Dustin. So I guess it's sort of a yes and no, which is unhelpful to you. But actually, what I might do, since I think we're doing pretty well on time, I'm gonna maybe show the spreadsheet. I know there was that kind of very small screenshot of it. Let's go over here. Oh, I need to actually stop sharing. There we go. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit more. So this is kind of the spreadsheet that I was talking about, Dustin. So again, we'll need the whole numbers. And so the one where this sometimes becomes an issue is the like mean distance between failure. So we'll ask for vehicle revenue miles and mean distance between failure. But I know some agencies will provide us their vehicle revenue miles and the number of mechanical failures. So we will only need what is in these cells. So like for your although I'm realizing I pulled up TAM, not safety. But yeah, so don't need to know the calculations of how you got there as long as you give us the actual numbers, not percentages, I think is the key. Is that helpful, Dustin? I don't know if I answered
Yeah,
that.
that's helpful. And I think the reason we had even provided you with the spreadsheet in the past was that the way we calculated our targets for revenue miles or the percentages, you just wanted to see how our decimal figures were off of our whole numbers. So that's why I was asking.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you, Dustin. That's helpful reminder and context. Yeah. So yeah, that we won't need that additional information. And I think Dustin, maybe you and I had done some back and forth too on when I was kind of new to this. I was calculating rates at one point based on the data we'd been given. And then that's when I kind of learned that a lot of folks were using kind of this rolling 3-year number for the rates. So now that I know that, I take that into account. And so I just take folks, the rate you give me is the rate I assume is correct. So yeah.
Thank you. That answers my question. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dustin. Yeah. So, and I guess while I have this up, because I think we are in pretty good shape on time. So again, this looks a little bit different, but is really not the numbers. These are like the exact same words and fields that were here before. And what we'll probably plan to do is each year we'll kind of paste a new version of this below. So we've filled out the 2025 targets that each of you gave us last year. That's just for reference. That's why they're kind of grayed out. And then we have a field for the 2025 actuals and the 2026 targets for you to fill in. And then we have all the agencies at the bottom here. So again, they're not zoomed in on those, but so yeah, that's the plan. And then the regional tab at the end here will kind of pull all those numbers together.
So, Aaron, this would allow folks to see how your inputs actually affect the regional targets, right? And that's kind of we thought that would be a nice, both kind of like helps us kind of like share with you kind of why we need all the numbers, and then also it helps you see how your numbers affect the regional roll-ups that we have. So.
Yeah. And again, the regional tab will be visible to you. And so, yeah, you'll kind of, there's some transparency there too of the formulas. But again, we're kind of just totaling up everybody's vehicles, and then applying your target. So that way it's kind of weighted. So for example, maybe Everett Transit's fleet size is smaller than King County Metro's fleet size. This kind of weights it. I hate to misuse like a statistical word, so I don't, but yeah, so that your targets apply to your chunk of the regional total, if that makes sense.
And sharing this also reminds me, Aaron, this is just so folks know, again, kind of context, historical context here. These things evolved over time, with an understanding of what the different fleet mixes were for the different agencies, what the different assets are available. So certainly if things change over time, that's information that Aaron and I want to know. So if you get a new type of vehicle or whatever that needs to be categorized separately, I think just keep communication open with us about that, because we do want to have this as accurate as it possible for our regional roll-ups and information like that.
I wasn't going to pull the screen back up because it was just our thank you for being here, or our PowerPoint back up. It was just a thank you for being here. But I will maybe pause, at least I can see hands now, to see, does anyone else have any questions or concerns? We will send out a recording of this meeting, as well as the slides, if that's, because I know that can be helpful. And then, so that will definitely come this week. And then probably in a separate email, we will send out, you'll get the link to the TAM spreadsheet and the safety spreadsheet, as well as your agency's password to edit your tab. But I think that's it.
Hey, thank you for your time, everyone, for joining us and for the information you give us. So.
Okay, I think everyone's free to go. But thank you all for attending. We really appreciate your interest in kind of hearing what we're looking for and working with us on this.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.